The beat's been given. Gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 Kickstart Invitational podcast, where we dive into the heart of the Kickstart Invitational, especially in this episode. I'm, of course, your host, Kyle Steffi, joined by Carter and Justin McPhail. In each episode, we'll be bringing you exclusive insights, player profiles, behind-the-scenes interviews, and expert analysis of the latest developments of the Kickstart Invitational. Carter, Justin, how you guys doing, first and foremost?
I'm doing well, Kyle. How are you?
I'm chilling. The Pistons are on. They suck. But
Red
we're
Wings
here.
are on, and they are napping it.
They're nasty.
Red Wings are on. They're killing it.
As you guys can see, if you're a visual listener of the pod, got a couple gentlemen joining us. For some of you rookies last year, Fortnite Pro. I believe he's a dietitian as well. I know him as a lot of flop. Others know him as Bomber. Michael Bomberito, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Fellas, couldn't be happier to be here.
And of course, former captain, friend of everybody, just the most likable guy. Esther calls him Squints. We got Cullen Turgeon. Cullen, welcome.
Beep. Thanks, Steffi. I've been watching every pod, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with your hosting skills. Not just your intro, but your transitions and keeping the conversation alive. So maybe perhaps a future career for you here.
I mean, it's I am in sales, and a lot of times I got to run meetings, so it's it comes natural when I got to deal with Justin and Carter and whoever else joins us. But at least this is fun. So for those of you who just joined us, as like myself, for the first time last year, you may not know Flop. I kind of mentioned it before, but there's a reason we got both of these two gentlemen on. We're going to be diving into the Inaugural Kickstart Invitation. 2022 was a crazy year. I'm excited to have both of these guys on, dive round by round, and kind of cover the player profiles of both of these dudes. But before we do, we have an ad read from our sponsor. Carter, kick it to him.
Thank you, Kyle. Like always, this episode is brought to you by Dunham Sports, your ultimate outdoor and sporting destination. Whether you're into hunting, fishing, or loving every day, Dunham's has everything you need. Right now, use code Kickstart24 for an exclusive 20% off on all golf gear and accessories. Exclusions may apply. Don't miss out on the fun. Visit Dunham's in-store online at dunhamsports.com. Dunham Sports, where the great outdoors meets unbeatable savings.
Thank you, Carter, and thank you, Dunham's. Cullen, you like hunting, fishing, loving every day? At least one of those, two of those three?
I've never been hunting before.
You've
never
been
on live television before.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Not a big outdoorsy guy, but yeah, I enjoy it once in a while.
Fair. Well, start this Kickstart podcast episode off. Before we dive into Bomber, before we dive into 2022, we do have to start with our first captain. One of the founding members is on the board of trustees. Cullen, what does the Kickstart Invitational mean to you, especially as one of our founders?
Oh, man. Well, it started out as an idea, started out as a vision between Justin Carter and I. And, it's been pretty special to see from the first year to the second. It seems like we've been doing it for 10 years, but we're only going into the third year. And so, I think it's pretty cool. I look at it as something that we'll be doing 20 years from now and can look back and kind of create this tradition. So I look at it a lot like a tradition starting.
As cliche as it sounds, it's one of those things like you don't realize you're in the good times until you're beyond it. And the way you kind of put it made me think of it that way. This is such a cool thing that we do. And being in my only my second year going into it, it feels like that. And I know it means a little bit more to you three, especially, being the ones that brainstormed it together. Justin, kind of run us through this guy Cullen's stats, player profile, what he's got, what he's brought to the table so far.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Last year he played as a 7 handicap. Obviously, I know him a little bit before, but we went to Grand Valley together, of course. Says his favorite course on the trip is Pilgrim's Run, U of M golf course. Favorite trip he's ever, or favorite course he's ever played. Got a career record of 3-3-2, singles record of 1-0-1. Played Carter in both of those. So pretty good record against a guy who's been, pretty successful in the team format of the Kickstart, of course. Scoring average 76.63. Playing pretty good. We know that last year played a little tougher than year one, so we'll see where that goes up. He's right there in the middle of strokes gained if you want to get into the real deep stats. Just plus 0.05, ranking sixth in strokes gained. Had a career low round of 71 last year in the first round at the Mines. Tough golf course. Played really well. His best strokes gained round was that one as well. He gained almost 7 shots on the field. He and Esther shooting those 71s that day. He's somebody, he hasn't hoisted the Kickstart Invitational trophy yet, but he's definitely been a big part of his team. So when we look at his, sort of the back of the baseball card here, I think what I look at is his career record is in the positive, and honestly, he's eligible for captaincy again in 2025. You probably wouldn't get a lot of pushback from a lot of guys if he came back around as a captain for next year either.
So I think the one thing that's glaring to me, looking at the stat sheet here, is the career record of 3-3-2, a 1-0-1 singles record, and yet 0-2 on the Kickstart. Colin, what are those stats looking at? What are you thinking about when you see that?
Well, the 1-0-1 have been absolute dogfights with Carter. Like, I think he talked about it in a pod before, but whenever I would do bad, he would clutch up and make par. It would just go back and forth. It wasn't like we were just both making pars every single time. And that was the past 2 years. And so my memory goes to a lot of Pilgrim's Run and just dogfighting with Carter, going back and forth. I didn't know I'm 3-3-2, but I like what I'm seeing, but I'm hoping to improve the numbers.
I mean, Cullen, it's well on record that you would dog. You don't suck at much. You're good at basketball. You're good at Fortnite. You're good at COD. You're good at golf. You're good at having kids. Does the 0-2 record kind of bug you a little bit, especially against Carter?
Yeah, I mean, so I think especially from the first year going into the second year, we kicked off like voting for MVP and low net, and seeing some of the guys win those has motivated me and kind of brought out a competitive spirit in me. But also going 0-2, I think, you could almost say it's been great for the Kickstart, kind of putting Carter as the villain to go out and go get him. Has created some drama in in like Carter's year-round engagement, and his trash talking during the year and stuff has really made this something competitive for us. So yeah, I'm looking to bounce back from not in the conductors this year.
Carter, what does that answer sound like to you? What do you think about?
I mean, I look at his record, and I mean, you see a guy that has had a lot of success. He's put some points on the board, but at the same time, he's got, besides for maybe his wedding band, he's got a couple empty fingers. I will, however, go on record and say he's a guy that I want to have on my team, if he's available. It was like that last year, and unfortunately, due to some shuffling of some picks, he got gobbled up before I could get him.
Self-inflicted.
Very self-inflicted.
I mean, I don't want. What do you want to say? I mean, you make some moves at the deadline, and you come out on top, and who's to say what's what? But what I kind of wanted to kind of just to hijack it and deflect off myself Kyle. Colin, you look at this record of yours, and from a 10,000-foot view, it looks pretty good. Obviously, we've established that. How have you tried to, I guess, like separate the personal success that you've had, and then kind of push that to one side and look at how your team hasn't exactly found a way? Do you feel like you need to do more? Do you feel like you've kind of been getting let down by your teammates, or kind of where's your head been at in terms of your personal performance versus coming up short 2 years in a row?
Well, I mean, I think that, if I just parred that last hole on Pilgrim's Run last year, we would have won. So I think even though my stats look good, that I could have done more. And so I don't really hold it to the teammates that I've had. I think that I could probably be better in the cart. Sometimes I get in my own zone. And if, like, I remember the last 4 or 5 holes of Pilgrim's Run, singles, I was playing with Esser, and he was struggling at the end there. And I could have been a positive light to him and brought him back a little bit, but I was so in the grind myself that I didn't even think about it until I reflected. So yeah, I think
Yep.
there's some things that I can improve on there, my record one, and how I am in the cart.
Okay.
You a birdie juice guy
Yeah, I
by
mean,
chance, Cullen?
Kyle,
I partake in the birdie juice, but recently, I'm more, I just, as far as like making people bring out the birdie juice, I've been a lot of pars in the recent years. That's kind of how I get my good scores, is parring everything.
It's fair.
yeah, I mean, I've been I've been front and center for a lot of those pars in these matches. It seems like you run out of runway quickly when Cullen's just making 4 all over the course all day. So without any further ado, I think we put a pin in Cullen, and we move on to our second, but not by any means less important guest, Mr. Michael Bomarito.
Hey, fellas. Again, thanks for having me. It's just an honor to be here with you guys and be a part of the Kickstart.
Mike, can you tell us what does the Kickstart mean to you? And then building off of that, do you have one, can you think of one specific favorite Kickstart memory that you have from the 2022 playing? Because all of us missed you last year on the trip, but give us your favorite. What does the Kickstart mean to you? And then what's your favorite memory from year one?
Yeah. So the Kickstart, like as we get older, like I feel like it's tough, to stay in touch with guys, and the Kickstart brings everybody together. Like a lot of these guys that are on this trip are, either roommates or old teammates, and you took for granted like how much you got to see everybody and like just being with the guys. And so the Kickstart, not only do we have the event, but the group chat's always going off. We now have the podcast, the Instagram. So it's like it's a really cool thing to be a part of, and it's really nice to stay in touch with everybody. And then kind of a part that I underestimated was just how competitive some guys still are, and I think the Kickstart allows that competitive edge to kind of come out a little bit. So, and we've seen that, getting ready for drafts, of getting, we have surveys for, the scouting reports. And so it's a nice little, it's a nice little, competitive, competitive chip in there. But really, just to sum it up, man, it's awesome. And especially we have such a great group of guys, and, some have known each other for a long time, and now we're bringing, some guys you meet on the trip, and everybody's just a down to earth good dude. And as Cullen mentioned, I definitely see this being like a 20-30 year tradition, and it's just that kind of group. And and then as far as I wouldn't even say it's my favorite moment, but I was trying to think of like back to 2022, something that stuck out. And it was just being on the first tee, everybody there. And it's like, you're starting to get, like played sports and stuff, everybody, before you start to get these little nerves. And it's like, man, it's like, this is the real deal. So,
I
and I
haven't
think,
felt that in a long time.
yeah. And it was just
Yeah,
like,
right down there in your jellies.
the, I don't remember exactly everybody's first shot, but I'm pretty sure two people might have hit it like OB, and I'm stepping up there, and I was like, I don't even care if I hit it 100 yards. I was like, I just want it out there in play. So, I think that was just it was a cool moment to kind of realize what we're a part of.
Did you guys play music on the first tee that first go around? Carter?
Carter did something. Carter, did you have that wood driver?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
So, yeah,
Did
he
I
had-
hit did I
Talk
hit
about
the
not remembering.
ceremonial first with the wood driver?
Well, so you had brought it with you and you planned on doing it. I don't think you ended up hitting the ceremonial first driver, but did you play the national anthem in year one as well?
I think
the-
I did.
That sounds
Really?
right.
I
think
think,
that's-
yeah.
was
I
it
think
was it like the national
Not-
anthem and then immediately into like EDM? Mike,
So
do you remember that?
that was year two.
Yeah.
I know we
Yeah.
did that last year.
I'm pretty sure I remember the national anthem.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I did. It might have been a different one than I played the second year, but we definitely had one. I think that we did in year one too.
Yeah.
So Flop, as a high handicap myself, I've never golfed with you. For those of you listening at home, actually, Flop and I have never met, but we've known each other for like 5 years now. But Flop,
True.
I hear your handicap sits a bit higher in the teens. I want to say your 2022 handicap was 16, give or
That
take a
sounds
couple.
right. Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
do you think you're
16.
sitting? Where do you think you're sitting now? And do you view that as an advantage, disadvantage? How do you view it altogether?
So I'm probably right around that range too. Haven't had a full round in, but looking to get out there soon. I would, the thing with my handicap is I have the ability to make pars, but it's so high because I also have the ability to make a good 8 or 9 here and there. So I think it's just, it's kind of give or take a little bit. So obviously wish you could go out there and be as good as some of these other guys, but there are some advantages of getting a few dots here and there. And I think that's what led to some success in 2022 is, being able to capitalize on the holes that you do get a dot and, just playing with those.
Yeah, to add some context to that, you can see it on your screen, but Flop's got a career record of 3-1-0, hasn't tied a match yet. Other than our first round match, we'll get into. Went 3-0 his final 3 matches. Really played really well. I think most of the guys from year one will remember that he putted extremely well. Not a lot of greens and rag hit, but a lot of 10, 12, 8-footers maybe for par net birdie that just seemed to keep rolling right in the center of the cup.
More like 20.
Yeah, some
Yeah,
20s in there, yeah,
putter-
for sure.
The putter
Uh,
got had against Chase.
I'll
Oh, we'll
if
get
you
to
remember
that. We'll get to
the
that.
first
Don't-
year's player profiles, Justin. One of the scouting reports said the babyface assassin dominated the greens with a tailor-made ghost putter that our 45th president described as a testament to white supremacy. That's what the people were
That's a-
saying about his
That's a
putter.
real quote.
after
That's a
year one.
real quote. Those aren't our words, by the way. That's a real quote.
Probably that
Don't
Midwest
ask me.
scout.
Don't at me. So his career low round was a 74. We talked about it a little bit in the group chat. Super consistent to his handicap number. Really impressive, actually. And then his best strokes gained round was that round at Pilgrims, the singles round against Chase. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but just wanted to add some context to him saying that he felt good about his success in year one, because it was, as a high handicap, very good showing for sure.
So Carter, for those of us who haven't met Flop, played with Flop, give us some of the intangibles. What's he bringing? What's he bringing to a team? What's he bringing as a champion? You know, run us through the guy of Flop, especially when it comes to draft day.
I mean, Flop is, you know, the only way I can describe him is Stubbs sweet and spicy barbecue sauce in the fridge. All right.
All right,
He's
reel me
always
in
gonna
with
be
this
there.
one.
He's always going to be there. He's dependable. Okay. No, he's not going to blow your socks off. Okay. By any means. But 12:30, 1 o'clock, you just got done playing too many rounds of Zone Wars with the fellas. You throw a couple, popcorn chickens in the air fryer, and what are you looking for? Sweet and spicy right there in the door of the fridge. You know what you're going to get from them. Every single time, consistency. And, I played with them in round 3 at Diamond Springs in year 1, and that's exactly what I got. We got to tee off a little bit late due to some gluten intolerances that he had going on in the clubhouse. But
Had to stay light.
once we got through the first 2 or 3 holes, all of a sudden he started to get a little bit looser, started to warm up a little bit, and we were a force to be reckoned with. I mean, Justin, we'll get into it later about the scores from that round, but I played with the guy and have played even more Fortnite with him. He's going to give you everything he's got, and you're going to notice how much you don't notice him, because he's not up and down fireworks anywhere. He's just, pebble in a stream, cool as a cucumber the whole round, doing exactly what you need, a player like Michael to do. Make some pars for net birdie here and there, but at the end of the day, he just, holds down his half of the cart and keeps it pushing in the right direction.
I think to add on to that, it's a real weird analogy, but the other thing about, Stubbs sweet and spicy, it goes with a lot of things. You can pair it with a lot of different things and have success. And I think Flop probably falls into that as well. He's a guy you can put with anyone. He's bendable, he's pliable, he'll play whatever role you need him to play. He's a good guy to pair with, a real steady player, and then let him use his dots. Or he's a good guy to have with your volatile guys that, he can use those dots to make your team some net pars and things. So yeah, I think it's completely doesn't make any sense when you just say it when you started that out, Cart. But yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I think Carter missing that blatant flag, calling him bendable.
He's bendable.
That's absurd.
He is. What do you want me to do about it?
Clean. You want to throw the challenge flag? I'll go to review.
I want a challenge
Yes,
flag.
send it.
100%.
Send it to the league. It's the truth. What do you want me to do about it?
After further review, the call on the ice stands. The play was onside. Good goal.
Mike,
Absurd.
how about your knee? I'm stealing this one. This is Kyle's question, but
I'm happy
beating around the bush.
Him. Yeah, no beating around the bush. So I originally did think it was the knee. It wasn't getting better. Just tweaked something. First injury ever had. So went in, thought it was the knee. Did some imaging. Turns out knee's all good to go. Had a little hip issue about a year ago. Did a couple courses of PT. And right now, sitting to give you guys an answer, probably like 95%. Would be lying if I didn't have, the second round on day 2 circle. But, it's a lot of golf for one day. But definitely, you know, feel good. The swing feels good. So that's what I could give you right now.
Good. I love it.
I'll take it.
Last question for Flop here. How many nice shots are we gonna get out of you at the Kickstart this year?
Depends on whether or not you hit a nice
Well,
shot.
That's that's true. And, you know, I do like, you know, I think a part of the Kickstart too, you got to be a teammate, you know, because some guys have ups and downs. So, you know, you're going to get quite a bit of good shots out of me, you know, even if, you know, I got to make sure my partner's there. And I think Carter can attest to this. You know, I think you got to build off that, even if it's just a little shot, you know, here and there. So you're probably going to get quite a few, Kyle. And hopefully we have the opportunity to, you know, play together and you'll see firsthand. So
Serotonin rushing through my veins every time I get a nice shot at a Flop in Fortnite is second to none. Might be the most iconic quote coming out of our Fortnite friend group here, squad, if you will. Flop, excited to meet you in person. Excited to get in golfing with you. Turning the tides back to Cully here. We've been told by the Southeast Scout that Cully has questions prepared for us. And I'm curious as to what they are.
Yeah, let's hear them. Big shoots.
Well, now you're putting me on the spot because I didn't write them down. But they were.
That's
I
why we're the
remember one of
professionals.
them was pertaining to the future, and we've been talking about a lot about the past. So, if you want me to swerve that direction, I can.
Yeah. Let's hear
We're
it.
all ears.
By all
I
means,
was
man.
I was gonna ask you guys, what do you think the Kickstart's gonna look like in 2030? I'm talking like format, location, you know, all the things that we plan today. You know, where do you think we're gonna be in like 6 years?
Someone's going to be trying to take down the conductor still, probably.
Cart, why don't you go first? Where do you think we're gonna be? What's it gonna be like? You think we're still gonna have this level of hype?
I think that we will. I think it's very possible that by then we're expanded to 16 players. You know, the part of the reason we held off this year was because now having 13 with Trick replacing Mike last year, and now unfortunately Brendan not being able to make the trip, and the biggest, I guess, like advantage of participating in the Kickstart is it's lifetime exemption. So coming in 2025 with the potential of having 13 players will leave us pretty much no choice but to expand to 16. And then if something happens again, then we have 17, let's say, then we only have to keep going up, which, because of the logistics that we've been able to work out so far and now focus more capital into this kind of stuff, I don't see a situation moving forward where we wouldn't be able to handle an expansion.
I agree. 16 would be on the low end, I think, come 2030. You know, if the core, if this, you know, 8 to 12, 8, you know, 13 guys, if this core group of guys is still all bought in and still wants to keep going on this trip in a few years, and by 2030, I would totally expect that we'd be at least at 16, maybe even 20 guys. We're hopefully, you know, not just out of college, you know, half of us aren't just out of college and a little bit strapped for cash. So maybe we're going to somewhere a little bit, you know, I don't know, not bigger and better, because I think we do an unbelievable job right now, but you know, a place where we can put 20 guys up and still have room to hang out. You know, I'm thinking of bigger resorts, like I know at at Arcadia Bluffs, they have 8-man cottages, right? And, in a few years, it makes total sense that we rent 2 of those out next door to each other and are hanging out. We got 2, you got one for, the, 2 teams, and, one team on one side, one team on the other, and maybe, maybe we eventually, I don't know if there's any reason that we wouldn't expand to maybe 4 teams. Could we have 24 players in this thing by 2030? I don't know, but when you go to more players, you need to go to a bigger place for everybody to stay together, because I think it goes 100% against the Kickstart philosophy for us to go somewhere where we stay in like 8 different hotel rooms, or where everybody gets a hotel room and then we're not really hanging out, or we have to sit around at the course for the entire time that we want to hang out, and then just go back to the rooms and see each other the next day. That's not really what the Kickstart's about. So if we're going to expand even to 16, we got to start thinking about different places to go. We got to start thinking about resorts that could handle that many people. I don't know what the format's going to look like, but hopefully if we continue to expand, we keep doing it bigger and better. But it's got to be about the guys hanging out. So it's got to be at a place that can accommodate that many people going forward. I'm interested. You guys were talking about what it's going to be like in the year 2030. But earlier, Carter and Kyle sort of mentioned what's it going to be like in 20 to 30 years from now. We're talking about 2054. Are we going to be, a bunch of 50-year-old guys going somewhere as, a group of 24 and renting out a cabin and doing that stuff? What do you
I
think,
hope
Kyle?
so.
You think we go all the way to 2050?
Yeah. Ultimately, yes.
That's what I like to hear. Kyle's bought in.
Could I see the number dwindling from there potentially? Like the older guys get, the more kids that are being had, and
Yeah, I
the
could see it
more-
dropping down to 12, back down to 12.
right. Like I could see that happening. But ultimately, everybody that's come in kind of runs through the core of Colin, Carter, and Justin in some way, shape, or form. And so as long as these 3 are dialed, there's no reason why it couldn't.
Yeah, for sure. Colin, you got any other questions off the top of your head, or you guys want to roll into segment 2? Mike, what do you think about 2030?
How many kids are
I
you going to have by then?
Well, we'll see, I guess. No, I think I think it would be cool, and as you mentioned, Justin, as guys get a little further away from college, maybe to look at even, like other states too, and venture off from Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is fantastic, to kind of explore a little bit more. Yeah, that'd be the only thing, but I think the way everything's trending, it's right on track to get there.
Yeah, it's not, not that Grand Rapids isn't great, but I think, without having a big resort type of place to go, once we're to more than 16, the group could sort of outgrow the potential accommodations. I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
What do you think about campground?
I don't. Well,
We
I'm
have
in.
might have to cut down on the 2 rounds in a day.
Yeah, I don't know how, we got some old, Preston's an old guy. We're talking about, 35-year-old men sleeping in tents or in campers to go play golf. You're a little young. I think you probably feel fine about it, Kurt, but I don't know how.
I'm just saying. You want to put
Definitely
24
changes,
guys and 24 guys in
definitely-
one Airbnb?
Definitely
Camp
changes
life.
draft strategy.
Yeah.
I'm just picking guys that don't snore. At that point.
Yeah, you make a good point.
That might be the fall of the conductors in 2038. What
First
happened
camp.
last year, Cards? I picked all the guys that slept good.
Yeah.
Forgot about the golf aspect. But, all right, Jay, move us into our favorite segment, our favorite sponsor.
Well, I think the segment changes every week. These guys are by far our favorite sponsor, though, for sure. I talked to Dan this weekend. I think we've got confirmation that these guys do not know that they're sponsoring this podcast or this trip in any way, which is
Like to keep
good.
it that way.
You can check in with Dan Henderson if you're looking for a Labatt Blue / Detroit Red Wings hockey bag. He's got access to a couple of those right now if anybody's interested. But the segment sponsored by Alliance Beverage. It's a local beer distributor in Traverse City, as you guys know. Alliance Beverage exists to help fulfill and enhance the quality of lives of their associates, customers, suppliers, and community. Alliance is here to support the Kickstart Invitational, these recap segments that we're going to do, and they're here to support the pursuit of great golf and great friends. So thank you to Alliance Beverage.
Thanks, Alliance.
Thank you.
So on draft night, we'll start here, because this is where, you know, even the team
It started.
names started, right? We didn't have logos and stuff on year one. We didn't have those sorts of, you know, things. We didn't have the posters up all over the Airbnb as guys remember. I think the guys that were rookies last year are spoiled a little bit with the theatrics that ended up taking place, right? So we'll start with you, Colin. Did you have a plan for the draft ahead of time for your team? Did you have, you know, were you picking, you know, based on their play, based on handicaps, anything like that, or was it maybe something else that you were picking on?
I think it's I think it's kind of a tough question because I mean it was our first year. I brought guys on the trip. Carter said it last pod. We're all just meeting each other. And even though we're all guys and I knew that we were gonna jive well, you know, and only having 8, it was you know, bringing 12 guys to the trip makes the draft a little bit more unique, a little bit more variables to play in. And
Yep.
so it was kind of predetermined, you know, putting Carter and I in captaincy. Maybe if we put 2 new guys that haven't met, you know, anybody in captaincy and just play it off from there, it would have been way different. But you know, there wasn't like a huge strategy going into it being the first year. But if I'm captain next year or in the next recent years, I think the way that Carter has gone about it and how Preston did last year has oomphed the competitive strategy to captaincy and really looking at all the variables since now that we all know each other. So it definitely will be different, you know, next time come around if I get lucky enough to be captain. But yeah, that first year was kind of predetermined.
Yeah, not in writing or anything, not like you guys texted
We
each
hadn't
other
really
before
talked
and said,
about it
hey,
either.
you have to pick this guy and then I'll pick this guy or anything like that. But it definitely, you know, to me, it felt like you were sort of obligated to pick the guys that you brought so that you could control who they were going to play with. And you didn't have a couple guys that, you know, just like you said, had never met before that are going out there to play around with 2 other guys they never met before. And, you know, you don't know how their personalities are going to clash or work together. And now I think, you know, I'll ask you, Carter, is all of the pressure off with that last year's draft, or is all of the pressure, was there still some pressure to, you know, fit guys that knew each other together before, and all of that is off now? You know, when does that stop being a factor for you as somebody who's also a captain in drafting?
Well, I'll say in the first year too, because of right, like there only being 2 foursomes. I think we made it a point to get everyone to play at least one round
So
together.
beyond the draft, even all the way into the pairings
The
setup.
pairings we mixed them up so that every
Mhm.
person played in a group with everyone, either as their partner with their
Sure.
own teammates or
Mhm.
against the other 4 guys. I think me and you, Jay, are the only 2 that didn't play in the same group in the
Yeah.
first year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the second year, obviously with more players, and just the way that the kind of like the off season like went in the theatrics of that, like it felt like okay, everyone knows everyone a little bit. Like we have like a handful of new guys coming, but like they're gonna fit in right away. That the second year I felt like it was more picking to try to win the
Sure.
tournament more than it was like picking to try to make sure everyone has a good time, because like we said too, like the first year was, and part of the reason we called it the Kickstart was because it was the first one and we were just kind of feeling it out to see what
Sure.
it could be.
And
And then we
literally
just
just
kind of
not
rolled again.
possible with literally just not
Oh,
possible
guys,
with
yeah.
6 guys on a team to even have them play all together. So that takes some of the pressure off as well, for sure.
Yep.
Michael, what were you feeling on draft day? Did you feel any like nerves or pressure or anything when, we're sort of crammed into this tiny living room in our first year's Airbnb? Mike wasn't at the second year's Airbnb, but accommodations were a little different, just a tiny bit. I don't know if Cullen and Cart will agree with that, but the
It's a
living
tight-knit
room
group.
living room in year 2 is a little different than year 1, but how were you feeling on draft night? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like as you mentioned, I mean, it being the first one, you're not knowing what to expect. It's
Mhm.
definitely exciting, and you're kind of, you want to see where your name gets called, and you're kind of looking how things shape out, and so, and then you don't know everybody either, and it's like, man, I don't know how good this guy is that just got took either, and so it's kind of, it's just really, but it was like it's definitely a cool experience for the Kickstart for sure.
Yeah.
I know I can tell you I was excited when you see your name get called, and go up there. So
You've been
obviously,
dreaming of it your whole life.
yeah, there it is in the Kickstart. So
I'll add just a little bit of that because I know Colin said that it was kind of predetermined, the draft, and I kind of felt like that too. But I will say I picked Brendan first overall instead of picking my brother because I felt more comfortable having to risk playing against my brother than playing against Brendan at that time. I was
Or just
nervous
for
that I was
Brendan
gonna.
not to be on your team as the only one there that he knows.
So and I felt like if I had picked you, Justin, that there was a chance that Cullen would pick Brendan and I would have to play against Brendan every round and he would just be gnawing my ear off and ripping me and I wouldn't have any fun. And so I picked him first, and then when obviously Cullen picked Preston, I picked you. I knew he was going to pick Cody, and then it came down to picking my cousin or picking Michael, and that was the first probably like real strategic draft pick in the Kickstart history. And
Yeah.
we all know how it worked out. Talked about it a couple pods ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed because in myself because I have played golf with everybody. I was the only one. I've played golf with the most people in the first year, so I've played with everybody but Brennan, and none of you've played with
I hadn't
Preston
played with
or
Cody
Cody.
I'd never even met Preston or Cody.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that was also an advantage to pick them, but just because I knew how they played, I played a lot with Cody in Indiana. But yeah.
So I am curious because I know the whole thing kind of sounds like it's a bunch of dudes getting together. Nobody knows each other. definitely not going to be competitive in that atmosphere. Like if everyone's a little timid trying to feel everyone out, I can't imagine it was competitive off rip. Maybe this is a good segue into round one, but when did it get competitive? When did the juices start flowing? When did the shit talking start happening? When did that happen?
I don't know if it never, to me at least, didn't feel like
I know when for me,
an
100%.
intense match until the singles match.
Yeah.
That's what I would agree.
Because the first 3 matches, and we all clicked like that. I remember the first night telling stories, and we might have rattled the bog on Sunday night, and everyone was like, "This is
We did.
we
That's
need
confirmed.
this."
So we'll
Like, that's
pause
when we all
the
kinda
competitive. We'll pause the competitive talk then. Jump into round one. Couple bog rattles. You guys weren't feeling good the next morning.
I
I
think just
think
the
we're
excitement powered us
yeah.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the excitement sort of powered us through. I will say, like, after so we went to Z's before the draft, and then when we got back from Z's, we had the draft, and so the boys had sort of started like meshing already. But I've said it a number of times. It's a credit to Colin and Carter, how well this group of guys gelled right away. Um, and then I think that's also a little bit of the reason why it didn't feel super competitive right off the rip, like you said, Kyle. So it was definitely, to me as a non-captain, it felt like, okay, let's just get these guys to play together so they can see each other's games. Everybody can hang out with each other sort of an equal amount, and you know not giving a lot of weight to how much we were hanging out off the course, trying to add even more of that to the on the course and playing with everybody. But um, to start out round one, I'll just give you the pairings. It was Michael and I together off in the first pairing against Preston and Cullen. And then in the second pairing was Carter and Brendan off against Chase and Cody. So Chase and Cody, who had just met each other for the first time the day before. Cody playing with 3 guys he had never met before until the day before. And Chase only having known Carter out of his group. But there wasn't any nobody was like, man, Cody wasn't like, hey, I'd really prefer to play with Colin in the first round. So everybody got along right away, and that was, that's been a foundation of the trip as a whole as well. To I'll jump right into the summary, but right out of the gate, Carter and Brendan sort of started a trend as a bit of a powerhouse team. That they're actually, what made them so strong was that they were great closers. They made the turn tied against Chase and Cody, so the match was all square, going from 9-10. And then Chase and Cody actually won the 10th hole, and after that, Carter and Brendan sort of flipped it and rattled off. They won holes 12, 13, 15, and 16. They lost that 10th hole, and they only lost one other hole on the back 9 as partners for the entire rest of the trip. So they were unbelievable on the back 9 for the whole time. They were able to win that match 3-2, and then in the first match, Preston and Cullen were able to take down Michael and I 1-up. They won the 18th hole to win the match. Preston made a 4-net 3 on number 18, just a great par, 440-yard par 4. Made just a great hole, and he made a good par and won the match. But I think what I didn't even notice until I started doing the research for this was that Preston and Cullen made 5 birdies and an eagle on the back 9 to shoot a team 31 and run Michael and I down, who were 2 up after 11. We were 2 up after 11. We were actually 2 up after 14. And those guys closed with birdie on 15, birdie on 16, eagle on 17, birdie on 18 to win the match 1-up and take a point away from us. So it could have started out as conductors 2-0, and it ended up being 1-1 after the end of the first round. It seemed like it sort of started to feel a little competitive to me on the course around number 18. I was trying, Mike and I were trying our best, but these guys just they wouldn't even make a par for us. They went birdie birdie eagle birdie to close us out, and snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat. And so it was tough for Mike and I, but really, a good start to the trip, I think. And then we sort of headed back to the Airbnb, and I don't know who walked out first after sort of getting cleaned up, but they had their Kickstart t-shirt on, and we sort of looked around at each other and we're like, are we doing this? Are we all gonna we're gonna all wear our t-shirt out to
It was. I think
go
I came down
downtown?
the stairs with it on, and
Yeah.
Brendan had it on and went, well, are you wearing that shirt? And I was like, yeah, I just got this new shirt. I'm going to wear it. And he was like, well, I'm wearing my new shirt. And then we looked at everyone else in the, 8x8 living room that we were all sitting in. And we are like, put your shirts on.
I will have to
We're
say
suiting up.
also, the showers year 1 and the showers year 2 have been immaculate. They've been the best
Like
showers.
overall shower experience.
Just like Airbnb showers, like they've been unique. One was a tube, I remember. Last year
yeah.
there was one that was like it was just a half wall, which was kind of cool. And like it was glass from the half wall up,
Yeah.
and then it was like open. And yeah.
Cody
For
got in a
sure.
fight with the one spigot last year. Poor guy. Figure
Airbnb
it out.
showers can be suspect for sure, but that's a good point. When you talk to, I don't talk to them. When you hear people talk about, what's important on a golf trip, good water pressure and a good shower ranks really highly on the list when you're going to play a lot of golf and spend that much time outside. And, you're right, Cole. We've had some awesome showers, and we'll have a couple more this year, going back to that same place. So you make a great point. So we went to Founders, and then Kurt, can you remember what we did when we got back from Founders? We watched some playoff hockey, but what else did we do to prep for round 2 and 3?
I know that we started making some ham and cheese and turkey and cheese sandwiches.
Yeah.
Right. We're like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to have food at the course. It's gonna be pretty quick turnaround. And I think we knew that Diamond Springs was under renovation already.
Yeah.
Chase had tipped us off and said that, hey, just so you know, I was here not too long ago, and they're doing some construction on their upstairs. Like they're putting in a grill. They're putting in a snack shack type of thing, but it's not done yet. So they're not going to have any food. They're going to have, some chips and Gatorades and stuff in the pro shop area, but they don't have any food. So we got to plan for that ahead of time. And so, yeah, we're making the ham and cheeses, and we're making some PB&Js. And
So then, we decided, I believe it might have been Cullen who walked over and made a peanut butter and jelly while we were making the ham and cheeses and such.
yeah,
And
veteran move.
then all of a sudden the ham and cheese was out of the the line, and peanut butter and jelly started going through. But then, unfortunately, Cody found himself to be a little bit snackish and was just sitting at the end of the line eating them in 2 bites as Justin was making them.
He's catching them as they come off the line.
Jelly on one side, peanut butter on one side. Close it, slide it to Cody to get put in a Ziploc, and Cody would just put it right down his hatch. And Justin turns and looks, and there's like 4. There's like 4, and he's like, dude, what's going on? He's like, well,
it's maybe an over exaggeration, but we were starting to run into an issue where we only had one slice of bread to make all these sandwiches for everyone. And so when he's eating the ones that have been numbered for guys to have the next day, now we're running into a little bit of a, our supply
Inventory
and demand
issue.
isn't gonna, we're having inventory control issues down there at the
What
end.
what I remember happening was you made one sandwich with the butt of the loaf. And he
Mhm.
goes, "Oh, I'll eat that one. Like if I'm gonna eat one, I'll eat
Yeah.
that one."
Uh-huh.
But then we were sitting there talking for like 20 minutes as you were making them, and we realized he's gone through like two of them, and we're like, "You didn't just eat that one with the butt. Those are for the guys tomorrow." That's
Uh,
hilarious.
So my fat ass is trying to figure out what was the solution here, because did you not eat the next day or what?
well,
No,
so
just told
Cody,
him
Cody took one for the team. He said, okay, that's my bad. That's on me. Tomorrow between rounds, I'll make sure that I only take one, because we had made two for everyone. He's like, I'll snag an extra bag of chips and only have one sandwich the next day. And he was a man of his word. That's what he did. He powered through. He said, that's my bad. Only one sandwich for me tomorrow. I got an advance on my payment here. So he made it right in the end, and everybody, it's definitely, after the encounter that we had in 2023, cold sandwiches are probably a safer way to go if we were going to, make food and go there. Cause I don't think, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure it's actually illegal to cook in that parking lot at a place that serves food. I think that's goes against some laws of business and that sort of thing, but they can throw the flag on us if they want to. Um,
it'll go to review.
yeah, it'll go to whatever. So we go to Diamond Springs the next day, right? I think it's a cool experience for everyone. Not a lot of people have not a lot of guys on the trip had played a course like that before. Mike, had you ever played anything like Diamond Springs, that looks like that or plays like that, or can you compare? Is there anything that you had played that would compare?
No, I thought personally, I thought that was the toughest of the three, and I felt like I was looking for my ball quite a bit out there, just like kind of
Yeah.
working through.
The,
So,
the, the ball doesn't stop till it finds that long grass in a lot of places, does it?
yep. So I definitely thought that was one of the trickier courses we played.
Mhm. Yeah, so we start out, the pairings are in pairing one, it's Cullen and Cody this time around, going out against the powerhouse team of Carter and Brendan. So Cullen getting Carter and Brendan back-to-back rounds, and then Chase and Preston going out against me and Mike. So the score's 1-1 in the morning when we tee off. Carter and Brendan get hot in bunches again. They play holes 6 through 10 in 4 under. They're 5 up through 12 holes. They're really laying it to them, and it's not because Cullen and Cody aren't playing well, because they shoot 1 under 35 on the front, but they're 3 down when they make the turn, because Carter and Brendan shoot team 32 on the front 9.
Bang!
Some of that comes with Cullen being the second lowest handicap, so those guys are getting dots against him, right? And anytime you pair up Brendan against a low handicap, he's going to take advantage with those extra dots. And then those guys make the turn, and they just continue to put the pedal down. They get it to 4 up with 4 to go, and the 16th hole there, that par 5, they tie it with 6s, like Mike's saying. That's a tough hole. The ravine down the right, trees down the left, long grass and bunkers with big faces on them everywhere, and Carter and Brendan are able to take those guys down. And then in the other match, Chase and Preston against Mike and I. Mike stays hot on the par 3s. I didn't mention it at the Mines, but he birdied 3 of the 4 par 3s at the Mines in round 1. And then he turns around and birdies 3 out of the 4 par 3s again. But Preston actually plays them so well that we don't win any of the holes that Mike birdies on the par 3s. Preston's able to birdie or net birdie to tie, and actually on the 7th hole, he makes birdie for net hole in one, and they win that hole, even though Mike birdies it himself. But in the end, Mike and I end up shooting a team 66. We play well on the back nine. Mike again makes a couple more net birdies, and we sort of hold them off. Chase and Preston made themselves 3 gross birdies, and somehow still weren't able to win the match. That goes a little bit back to Chase being just kind of unlucky in this year, as we know. They had 9 strokes and 15 strokes and made some gross birdies and still weren't able to win that match. So it's 3-1 after the morning round. When we flip over to round 3, we've got Carter and Mike going out against Colin and Chase in the afternoon. Cole, how are you feeling now after having played Carter again, about having to go back out against him and Mike in the afternoon?
Well, I think at the time I wasn't really thinking about who I was playing.
Mm.
Anytime that I play 18 and I get to go repeat and play 18 again, I have like, for some reason, this high expectation that I'm going to go play so much better.
Yeah.
But I think what I found was the fatigue in my swing, and I couldn't really mechanically just hit a good one out there. So I think I've struggled the past 2 years in the second round on the second day, through fatigue. And so I think I was more focused on how I was going to perform versus who I was playing. I think that's also kind of my focus all the time.
Yeah, statistically, when we look at your strokes gained for round 3, that is your worst round. You really excel in round 1 when you're rested, and then round 4, maybe it's a little bit of a course fit for you at Pilgrims, but you play really well in those rounds. And then your round 2 is right around average, and your round 3 is 2.15 strokes below the field average. So it makes sense for sure what you're saying about being tired. Mike, how were you feeling after round 1? If you remember, I know that you had a little bit of nerves about playing your own ball 36 in a day. You had done it with JJ before, I'm sure, at Boulder, when
Yeah.
you guys were members
You
out there.
know,
But
definitely there was the fatigue factor, but I also, being paired with Carter, I think we kind of got settled in that round 3. Um, swing actually, if I remember correctly, felt okay, but uh, I think definitely just like, I think we might have, just looking back at it, I think we had that one wrapped up, headed towards the back 9, if I remember.
yeah, so you guys lost the first hole to Colin and Chase to a par. Um,
I
Tied the
remember
second hole.
Mike apologizing me coming off the first
Yeah,
green, being like, "Hey, I'm sorry,
Sorry,
man." Like,
man.
and I was like, "Flop, don't worry, I'm gonna get hot right here."
Yeah, so Mike starts you guys off with a 7 for net 6 on the first hole. You guys aren't able to win that one.
all right.
And then Carter told the story with Chase on, or actually told the story back in, I think it was episode 4 when we talked about the courses. But he and Chase both stuffed shots in there to inside of a couple feet for birdies on hole 2, and then on hole 3, what you're talking about, Mike, you guys sort of just took over, and you never trailed after that. So you guys made the turn on number 9 at 1 up, and then you were able to win holes 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 to end the match 5 and 4. Just sort of ran away with it on the back 9. I think maybe to play off of Cullen's point about being a bit fatigued. They sort of just ran out of gas. You guys were making pars and net birdies. Shot 1 under on the back 9 as a team, and Cullen and Chase shot 4 over. So they sort of ran out of gas. You're right. Carter's 3-0 at that point, and so he's playing really well. When we look at the other match, Brendan and I against Cody and Preston is a little more, a similar match actually. We tied the first hole, and those guys got up on us right away. They were all over us for sure. Cody and Preston were playing really good. They shot a 33 on the front nine, and they were 4 up on us when we made the turn. We didn't have a lot of confidence at that point. I'm not going to lie to you. Personally, I was feeling pretty tired too. Carter wasn't around to hype Brendan up, and I'm not much of a hype man myself. I sort of like playing my own game, so I wasn't getting him fired up too much. Brendan sort of picked us up on hole 10, making a par on the 10th hole and tying that for us to sort of stop the bleeding. We had lost holes 7, 8, and 9 to get to 4 down. And then I sort of, I saw him pitching in and working hard, and I sort of did everything I could from there. I birdied number 11 to get us to just 3 down. He made par for net birdie on 12 to get us to 2 down. Those guys sort of stopped the bleeding at 13. And then I sort of got hot. I birdied 15, 16, and 17 to keep us alive each time. And then on 18, Cody just stuffed one in there to like 8 feet and 2 putted for par to hold us off and win the match. Cody had shot even then at that point 2 out of the 3 rounds. He shot even par at the courses, and Michael had shot 1 over, just 2 out of the 3 rounds. So those couple guys were playing good and using their dots effectively for sure. At the end of that, the score's 4-2, so conductors are up by a couple, and that means when we flip over to singles that Team PC3, they got to win 3 out of the 4 singles matches to tie, and then they got to get 3 wins and a half to win. So the conductors are really, really in the driver's seat. They just need 1 win and 1 tie, and they're going to take home the trophy. After round 3, do you guys remember what we did for dinner after Diamond Springs?
Tacos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Luna
Carter,
family
let's
plan.
talk about that a little bit.
A lot of food.
I remember, getting those
Yeah.
those big bags of tacos and making them at the Airbnb, and
It
just
was
thinking, like,
incredible.
this is the best thing I've ever eaten ever.
And there was enough to where you didn't have to be shy to go back up there. We could just go
Yeah.
back and go back and go back. We just kept
It was
eating.
definitely a thing where I remember a couple of us going back for the second round and being like, I'm going back up, but like, oh, I'm just gonna be like a little bit coy here, and then getting through it, and then it kind of seemed like everyone had went through it once with a little bit of a shy guy, and then all of a sudden it was back to like Cody eating the sandwiches. We were all standing at the island, chips in hand, just hoovering it in as fast as we could.
Yeah, there wasn't too much talking going on when the big white paper bags got dropped on the kitchen counter for sure. Another, credit to Chase for knowing about this place, Luna, and their family taco dinner that you can buy. They say they say that each one can feed a family of 4, and for 8 guys we got 3 family packs. So we ended up getting enough tacos. I think everybody, I don't know if everybody stopped on the way. I don't think, Mike, if you remember, I don't think that our car stopped on the way for breakfast to Diamond Springs, and so the only thing that we had eaten was sandwiches, between rounds. And
Did we have
I think
Eggos?
it was just snacks
morning?
before, I think.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't think we had Eggos. I think we just had granola bars and stuff that we had bought at the grocery store, and we didn't stop on the way to the course. So
No.
everybody was definitely feeling hungry.
I am curious. Going into singles, down 4-2, Cullen. I assume the competitive juices were flowing a little bit at this point. Did you feel like you had a shot? Did you feel like, I don't know how you guys did matchups, if it was the same as last year, but like, were you looking at matchups or were you just kind of going with the flow still on it?
Yeah, someone remind me. I played Carter, and then who did I play with? Did I play with Cody?
Play with Preston. Mac against Preston.
Yeah.
Mac against Preston, and then it
Mhm.
was Justin versus
Cody.
Chase. No.
No, I
Oh.
played against
I
Cody
played
and
Chase.
Michael played against Chase.
Cody, and then Michael played against Chase. So I do remember Cody was playing well, and so that's why we paired him up against Justin because he was gonna get all of his dots.
Yep.
And we thought maybe if he could just, make 12
Drown
or
him in the
13,
dots.
12 or 13 pars, some of those for birdie with the dots, that it could give Justin a run for his money. I think Carter and I matching up was two captains, and also our handicaps were very similar.
We were
So
the
nobody was
same.
really getting dots. They were the same. So
No,
it
well,
was
you
just
guys were the same you guys were the same last year, but Carter was getting 4 dots off of you in year 1 actually. But that was the
Really?
closest. That was the closest on the teams. So
What did I
you
play
were
as in the first year?
you played as a 10 and Cullen as a 6.
Oh.
So regardless, Kyle, to answer your question, I think we thought we had a chance. We thought we gave ourselves a chance for the last day. I think we definitely thought we could have done more leading up to that. But I think on the last day we really, that was when, like, when you said when things got competitive, that was when we really started talking about, like, um all four of us were collaborating on what we could do. I don't remember how we did the matchups and how we presented them, but we kind of got
I
what we
think
wanted.
we put out our pairs. I think we said
Well,
I think we came out and said Justin and Michael are going to be in the first group, and then you got to match against them, and then we got to match against you and Preston.
yeah, I think what we did was you chose Carter who was going to go out first, and then Cullen had a chance for his whole team to say, I want to play against that guy.
Yep.
And so we the conductors said, okay, Justin's going out in our first match, and Cullen's team had the opportunity for somebody to say, I want to play him. And to Cody's credit, he stepped up, and that's when you were asking us before, Kyle, about when it started to feel competitive. When Cody sort of stood up right away and was like, hey, I want to play against him, was like, okay, this is what is, this is where it feels a little, this is more than just some buddies going and playing, a few days of golf. Right.
Yeah, and I think at that time also, for the first 2 days or the first couple nights, Preston and Brennan really hit it off, and they were comfortable enough to talk crap to each other.
Yeah.
So it was
Yep.
kind of like, I don't remember if you matched Brennan up to Preston or if it was vice versa, but I remember they kind of wanted to match up against each other. Especially with Brennan being on a heater the first 2 rounds. Preston had a little bit better of a handicap, but um that was a dogfight. So I think going into it, we thought we had a chance to really take it all. But it was just kind of we were too far behind.
Yeah, and it's tough with only that many points available, right? To when you get behind, it's only 2 matches out on the course at a time. If any session goes 2-0, it's like it feels really tough to come back from that with so few points. And I think if we ever were somehow down to only 8 people able to participate, we'd probably have to find another way to make points available, whether it's like, having a match for the front 9 and a match for the back 9 and counting, 2 points per match or 3 points per match, 1 for the total or whatever. But yeah, there's just not enough points at that point. It's really hard to come back from that for sure.
Yeah, or we could do a point for the front 9 and a point for the back 9.
And we
We
were
could-
talking about that for year 2.
We talked
But
about it.
when we went back and looked at the numbers, the score I think ended up being more spread.
Yeah,
Then
so the score was more lopsided actually when we broke that down and used our scores from the previous year. So it sort of deterred us from wanting to do that, because it's also another thing if one team, really is outplaying the other and they win 3 points on somebody, that's a lot more to have to come back from. If you get swept in a match, that's, starts to steer harder. You're steering into the skid at that point and going off course farther. So
Yeah, I was also thinking about what if we put like a star on a matchup on each day or each
marquee matchup.
round, where there was like
oh yeah,
an enhanced amount of points. So it's like kind of like the star matchup. Whether it was the last day
matches
or
were
whether,
double.
well, yeah, like where like points were double, or they would play 9 and 9, or kind of made it fun that way. Just kind of put a spotlight on a matchup would be kind of interesting how that would play out. But I
Yeah.
think also naturally adding another 4 guys, making it 12, has made the points. Justin said it before. We've been lucky how it's turned out. In those moments, whether it's Steffi coming down hole 36 or um Chase coming down Pilgrim's Run on 18, which reminds me, last year I remember looking back because we were like the second squad and the third squad was coming in, and I remember like all 4 shots were hitting it in that 10-yard fairway gap with like hybrids and drivers, and I'm looking back like, what is going on?
Yeah, like you're lacing a fairway wood or a hybrid into the narrowest part of this hole. Like you could hit driver over the bunkers and take the water out of play, or you can hit iron off the tee and go short of the bunkers to the wide part of the fairway. And just that last group, everybody is just like laying it out on the line, just like I'm gonna launch this into this gap that's, like Colin said, like 10 yards wide. Everybody's just going to stuff it into this tiny little area, and everybody's going to have a 70-yard, pitch up the hill. Like if you're drawing that up as, somebody's golf coach, you're like, big red pen. This is not where we try to hit it. If we're going to lay up, we're laying way up. If we're going for it, we're taking everything we got. Like just horrible, horrible decision making. And all 4 guys hit it in there. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, so my point there is that like if we get that every year, we're not going to change a thing. But if there's a year or two where we where the point spreads have been, we need to mix it up a little bit, then we can kind of
Yeah.
insert some of these different point systems
up.
to make it interesting. So
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
too, part of the advantage of us moving from 8 to 12 was, like Justin said, each match had a little bit less weight,
Mhm.
which I think, in my opinion, going in from year 1 to year 2, I was a little bit nervous about how competitive it seemed like it was gonna be.
The
But I
pendulum
think
had
then
swung a long way from where it started out on draft
Where
night
it
to where
started.
it was feeling on draft night of year 2.
Yeah, so then I think it will be like it'll still be like competitive like it was last year, but I don't think it'll be quite as intense, maybe like 90% of the way there.
Yeah, I
Just
think
with
it's gonna go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I think we're at a point now where the competition will dictate that, right? So if it's really close it's going to feel really competitive. And if it's not that close, then it's like, okay, I'm just going to go out there and have fun and, try to get a point when, for my individual, or play a good round for my low net game or whatever. So we're lucky, like we've said, however many times, that we're at a point where the competition can sort of dictate how competitive the whole thing feels, right? If it's close, it's going to be you're going to feel a little nervous making, teeing off on singles day.
Yeah, I think that the tenseness will be less, but I think what I said before, I feel like if I could predict it, there's going to be the conductors are going to be like, hold the line, and anybody who's not on the conductors are going to be going after it a little bit harder. So I think the
Yeah.
competitiveness is going to be there because
You'll be hearing the
you've
whistle from
created this
Carter.
environment by winning the first 2 years and being captain.
Yeah.
But I think that the tension will be lower and we'll all know what we're getting into and we'll be having fun with it. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I think you make a great point.
I know
Yeah.
from my perspective, going into it last year, and I'm still one of the worst out there, if not the worst out there, Mr. Irrelevant. But it was like, for me going into it, like for that month and a half leading into the Kickstart, like I was going to the range daily. I was trying to get golfing as much as I could, watching an absurd amount of Rick Shields. Like, to me, it was as much a competitive thing as it was a fun thing with the dudes, just because I didn't know a lot of the dudes. And so I wanted to be able to show up and not look a fool. I can't imagine everybody was worried as much about looking a fool as I was, but I especially for the new guys, it's not hard to make that bridge and make that assumption for most, at least.
Well, I'll say one thing that I wanted to bring to this pod was that golf brings, so like first of all, we're all guys, we've all played sports, and so we kind of, especially us that have been out of sports for a while, we yearn that competitiveness, that bragging rights. But outside of that, golf makes it so unique because it's a sport where there's so much mental and there's so much time in between execution, and the execution is so precise and so acute, where if you're on the last hole and everybody's watching you, and we have golf genius, so everybody knows where the points are at, and we know it's on a line, but you have 4 minutes in between your shot. Like if you're going to kick a game-winning field goal or a free throw to win the game, like it
Something
happens
he's
in
done
10
both of.
seconds. Yeah, like it happens so quick. Like, yeah, it's a one-time thing and there's a lot of pressure, but it happens pretty quick. You can barely even think about it. But golf, you can get in your mind and you have to think about it. And then you gotta execute on a small greenside chip where you're only making a small movement, but it has to be so precise. And so I think the nerves with golf really make it interesting. And especially that we have guys with all sorts of skill level, but somehow make it a way to make it pretty even at the end. It is pretty fun.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think, you know, let me tell you just how it shook out, right? I mean, some guys from year two, the rookie guys, they don't know how it ended up breaking down, but I'll start it in the order of sort of how things wrapped up. Um, so match one is me versus Cody. Match two is Michael versus Chase. Match three is Carter versus Colin, captain on captain. And then the final match is Brendan versus Preston. So these are, close matches for sure, but none of them come down to the last hole. We talked about how lucky we were that happened in year two, but in year one, so for match four, Preston wins hole 10 over Brendan and sort of just never gives back control. They're sort of shit talking each other back and forth a little bit the whole time. I think Carter can confirm. Max sort of makes it close towards the end, but P wins it 3-1, sort of going away. Wins what the 8th hole, which ends up being, which is the 17th hole, because as you guys know, we started off in the rain, in the cold, on hole number 10 instead of on number 1, which didn't let us play 18 as the final. But I sort of do the same against Cody. Cody was, I won the 10th hole, and I never trailed at any point in the match. Cody was able to keep it close. He got the match tied twice, but he never took the lead on me, and I ended up sort of pulling away at the end, and winning 4-3. In match 3, Cullen sort of outlasts Carter. Carter's finally burnt out. That train finally runs out of steam. The whistle stops going off towards the end of the match, and Cullen's able to win it 3-1. I remember looking back from the 8th tee at Carter and Cullen hitting into 7, and Cullen hits this great shot in there. The hole's playing really long. The pin's all the way in the back. Cullen hits the shot all the way to the back on the proper tier, and Carter hits it to the very front of the green. And Mike and I are up there. We're playing well. We're ahead in our matches. My match is already over, and these guys are back there, and just the body language is off, and they're not looking good back there. But I don't know how closely they were looking at Golf Genius, but Mike and I in our card are like fist bumping, because we know we're both going to win our match. Like, this thing is toast. This thing's over. But their body language, like, Carter wanted to go 4-0 bad as the captain. He wanted to have that record. He just couldn't outlast Cole. He was too much for him to handle in a singles match. And then in match 2, Chase played his best round of the tournament, score wise, but he can't beat the dots. Like, Michael putted so well in this match. It was just, driver to the fairway, second shot to the edge of the green, chip to 10, 12 feet, and he just poured them in all day. The guy seemed like he couldn't miss. Mike just putted his way around the course, and stuck to his game plan, got the ball in play, and used his dots, and beat Chase 3-2. That ended up being the winning point for the conductors, and the conductors ended up taking it 6-4. So
I remember talking to Cody post round, and I remember his first words were, "I mean," and as soon as he said, "I mean," I'm like, okay, I know how. So what he basically said was like, he just couldn't get an edge on you, Justin. And I remember he looks at Bomber and he goes, "And this guy is just reining him in from 20 feet all day." It doesn't matter whether it's downhill with a slope or it's like he's got 5 feet of break. Like, he was just making them.
It's not like he's lagging them down there, like barely any speed, and they're just barely trickling over the edge or lipping in, or 360 spiraling into the hole. Like, it feels like it's lucky. Every single one is just boom right in the center, bang, back center of the cup, hitting the back edge of the cup, dropping right in the middle. Like, this guy, a 17 handicap or whatever he was playing as that year, and the guy's putting like freaking Jordan's, like 2015 Jordan Spieth. Just like everything is going in from everywhere. Like, I half expected him to just like start pointing at the hole from 25 feet and like asking me, "Where's that going? Where's that going?" As it pours right in the center, just over and over.
I felt like, as Justin and I were keeping track of, where we were sitting and how things were going. And if I remember, we started to catch a little bit, of momentum off that back nine. I think kind of just like fed off each other. And I think they just gave a little more confidence to really, you could kind of feel it a little bit to kind of go for it more.
Was Justin helping you with reads, or were you just kind of instinctually looking at it?
No, he wasn't helping with reads.
I don't think he would have wanted me to help with reads, because I'm probably the worst green reader on the whole trip.
I think we did. We had a good, we had good like teamwork in the car, you know. And like I said, I could definitely feel like Justin, you know, won that round early, and it was kind of, and I think Chase started to struggle a little bit towards the back compared to the front, and there was a little bit of opening there too.
Yeah, he sort of started to battle. He was pressing a little bit because he was down, and he's trying to, felt like he has to make birdies because Michael's making these, par net birdies. He's got to hit it. He's got to stuff it in there close. You know, on the back nine, Chase made twice. He made birdie, gross birdie, and Mike tied it with par net birdie. So just never let him get the momentum back swinging in that direction. Was able to close him out just like you said. So that's just, it wasn't as close as year two. I don't want to keep touching really on year two because we're going to do a recap on that as well. But, it definitely felt more competitive. I don't, Mike, if you can maybe touch on that a little bit. How were you feeling after having played 36 the day before, and then sort of having to go out in the rain and the cold? Like, we thought it would be a factor trying to make this like a kickstart tournament to the beginning of the year, but we didn't probably expect it.
The nerves were definitely there, even off the range. Everybody's kind of checking the weather too. Don't want to go, and that's kind of a factor. And if I can just put it like this, I think I switched between driver and hybrid 4 or 5 times off that first tee. And then I think I topped one. I mean, it was definitely like, feeling it. And then going up against someone like Chase, who I know, he's going to bring it. He's pretty like analytical when it comes to playing the course. I knew he was going to put together a good round. So definitely that pressure was there. And I think you could kind of sense it too. And Justin, I think, we were kind of talking before, and there was not, a separation, but it was like, that was the first time I could feel like there was 2 separate teams on that hole. And it was, we were in for the day. So,
yeah, we weren't a foursome of buddies going to play around at Pilgrims at that point. We were our cart and they were their cart. And that's, that's how it was going to be for the whole round.
So the conductors win 4-2.
Yep.
Carter, I believe, won low net. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And MVP or no?
Yes.
So I was voted MVP, and I'll refute a claim that Justin made that I really badly wanted to go 4-0.
Why?
Because
you don't want to win.
How can you refute that? You were trying to lose?
Hold on. He was saying I was like really like I wanted the like 4-0 record. Like I was thinking about that. I didn't even realize that I was 3-0 going into singles when I was voted MVP, and like Justin and me and Mac rode back from the course together, and Mac was like, yeah, we knew everyone was going to pick you, and I was like, didn't even like realize that I was the only one that won all 3 of the 4-ball matches, because like I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just trying to win each match and didn't realize that everyone else wasn't having that same experience as me. So yeah, I was trying to go out and beat Cullen to get the point for the team. But no, I was not in the back of my mind being like, I have to win this to stay undefeated and have the 4-0 record.
I don't know if you tell a good story for sure. I don't know if I believe you, but you're saying all the right things. As a guy who's got to pick a team, as a guy who's got to be a leader for next year, you're saying all the right things to me right now, and I gotta respect that for sure.
He's on record for being PR trained to the peak.
Yeah,
that is best as well. So I mean,
I think regardless, the MVP vote was pretty unanimous when we kind of all got together. So, regardless of all that, it showed, all 4 rounds what Carter did and kind of put a target on his back.
Was there any other awards that year?
No.
those were the only two.
I know
Start
one
out.
topic of discussion, and just briefly, and maybe you guys don't have an answer now, but keep in touch with us, Cully and Flop. But obviously, there's not going to be a Rookie of the Year award. We had discussed a Most Improved or something along those lines. But do you guys have any award ideas that are in the spirit of the Kickstart Invitational?
Yeah, I think most improved is great, or even to give that some thought. I think most improved is a really good start. I was trying to think of something like, we do a lot of cool things off the course too, and all the other awards are on course. I don't know if there's something to, give the guys, or I don't know how you do it, but
Comeback player of the year, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think most improved is tough. I think a comeback would be cool. Like, let's say Chase wins it this year, but he's not low net, or he doesn't win MVP or something like that. But like, he has a really good, or no, he had a really good year this past year. So
Last year.
if like
So we
last
had him as
year,
the preseason comeback athlete.
yeah, so like that would be a
So
cool award.
he
But I
would have
think
won comeback player of the year
had
last
it.
year, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think I think the unsung hero award is super important. We also,
Shout out Kyle.
don't want to have 5 or 6 awards,
Yeah, because we
for the
don't want
12
to feel like
guys.
everyone's getting an award.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
No participation trophies out here. This is an
Yeah.
invitational.
And I hope, and I also think that there's going to be some diversification in the awards, like in the next couple of years. So that would also, make it where we don't really have to have any others that need to come in. I think the 3 is pretty spot on right now.
I'd like to see a year this year where our low net winner and our MVP winner are not the same person. I want to see someone go out there and win and get voted MVP while someone else is the low net.
Yeah, it's hard to do for sure, because obviously you're participating in both at the same time. But is that what you mean by some diversification in who wins the awards, Colin? Like, not somebody winning multiple awards at the same time, really, and sort of spreading those 3 or potentially
Yeah, I
4
think
around.
that just adds value to my point, but my main point was I think that there's going to be some people who come out and have a good year. I think
Yeah.
let's say Esser comes out and just plays, really, really well, where he wins an MVP. We've only had 2 years, so we've only had a total of 5 awards over the past 2 years go out. So what I mainly was saying was, if it's not the same guys that keep winning MVP because they just, are a hot commodity and they do really well, that
They're a
there's
professional
no
golfer and they shoot the
need.
best scores.
Yeah.
Professional.
That's basically what I'm trying to say. But there's no need to add if there's, it's like someone shows up each year and
Yeah.
wins MVP.
You make a
Yeah.
good point. We can take it offline too to talk about, whether that individual low net is even something to give out, to be honest with you. Because if the team matches are going to stay this competitive, then, your individual score doesn't matter all that much in the end. I feel like we had it in there for something to like award somebody something, just in case, they played really well and the team score just wasn't that close. Right. So like, if
Yeah.
a guy on the team that loses, like in this case, the score was 6-4, but if the score is 9-1 and there's a guy on the team that only gets 1 point who goes out and just lights up the place, but just, his teammates just don't play good, then we got to reward that guy with something. Like,
Yeah, I think it was also it's also like a personal gain award. Like, it's a personal thing. We all have handicaps, so we all can use our handicaps to get that net score. So we all have a chance to do it. And so
Yep.
it's just a testament to that, like you went in and you played well, whether you were hitting range balls before the event or you've been practicing on something. It's just like kind of something that
Yeah.
you can play against all 12 guys without splitting into 6 versus 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, because it's just kind of a way for everyone to kind of shuffle up against each other. Like you said, like with the net format, it's essentially making the playing field even because it's whoever can play the closest to their handicap for the 4 rounds, right? So
For
I
sure.
think definitely it's something that we keep in. If we allot, I guess, like the prizes that we acquire for low net, I think we maybe move them into the more, like, I guess, more like important like prizes to make those feel better. Where
Yeah.
I don't think we need to be giving away our big boy prizes for low net as much as it'll be cool to see him go to the unsung hero or the MVP.
You're probably right. You're probably
Speaking of unsung hero, I got a couple quick hitters, one for Cully, one for Flop here. But Cully, unsung hero award. I am the current holder of the golden putter. Who would have won it year one? Just knowing what you know of the award and your memory of the trip. Who had the biggest impact both on and off the course?
Probably BMAC.
Hmm,
I think he would have
see
been a
that.
Yeah,
great
I
candidate.
agree with that.
I
For sure.
think for the way he played, his competitive side, but he's just a very good vibe off the course. He has a good
Yeah.
personality. He can chill with everybody. He doesn't come off too strong. Um, and I didn't really experience it, but he'd be a blast to be in the cart with. So year one would have definitely been his take for the unsung hero.
For sure. I could see that. He would. I think I voted for him last year, actually. So that makes a ton of sense. Flop.
He's a major glue guy for sure.
He is. Flop. Uh, as it sits in the record books, you are still a current champion of the conductors. Do you feel like a champion? Do you feel the pressure to repeat? And how would you feel if you don't get drafted by the conductors this year?
I think there's a little pressure, was on that winning team with, Carter, Mac, and Justin. So definitely, want to keep that going too. And of course, always want to be back on the team, you came with. But I think this year we have 2 really good captains. And, listening to last pod, um, Stevie Chase over here, I think he's going to put together a pretty good team. So if I crawled up, Chase's draft board, definitely wouldn't be upset about that either. Get a chance to take down the conductors. So either way, gonna be happy with
You
happy
fist
with
bump
either pick,
for
so.
it.
This guy doesn't know what team he's on either.
I'm gonna pick my team, and everyone's gonna walk in the room and be like, "I'm not playing for you. Trade me."
They're laying their jerseys down like Rudy on me right now.
I have to go out there and play. I'm gonna have to go out there and play 1-on-11. I'll take it though.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because we talked about it a little bit on a couple podcasts previously, but for the following years, Cullen, would you want another shot right away at being captain? Is that something that you're looking for? And then along, Mike, you can answer after, but who do you think, do you feel the same way? Are you looking to be a captain anytime soon?
Well, to answer that, I think that Chase made a good point last pod that like he didn't really feel like he deserved to be captain. I personally like to spread the love now that everybody's getting to know each other. Um, I think it made sense for me to be a captain because I knew most of everybody on the trip, starting out. So I think, if you ask me that question a year from now or 2 years from now, it would be different than how I feel right now. Since we're only going into year 3 and I was a captain year 1. So I would probably have more urge to be a captain like after this season. Um, but I would like to see other people in that spot and see how they do.
Yeah, Mike, Colin makes a good point. It's probably a question to ask in the postseason. Now that we have a captain for this year
Yeah.
that's got what looks like a great brand, but is that something that you feel sort of getting under your skin a little bit, the want to become a captain someday?
Just to piggyback off what Colin said, I think that's something you earn, and I think Chase showed that last year too. It sounds like he had a huge improvement. So it's hard for me to answer right now, especially not being there last year, So
Yeah.
depending on, that's not on my mind right now. Of course, as we were talking in the future, I would love that, and it's a big responsibility and a big honor too. I mean, you see, it's 365 for these captains too, so I think that's, it's definitely something I'd like in my future, but it's hard to answer right now. Just going back, I feel like I haven't earned it being there, not being there last year, and
Sure.
See how this year goes, and but definitely I think we have a bunch of great guys that I think could fill that role. So I think there's a lot of good names in the hat too, but we would definitely like a shot at it.
Absolutely. Colin or Kyle, let me ask you a question here. Do you think that a strong a strong individual performance is the most important thing for choosing the captain for the following year?
I mean, it's got to be a little bit, right? Like,
Or is this the leadership role, how seriously you take that? Does that far outweigh that?
I mean, it's got to be a little bit of a mix of both, right? Like, I can't imagine you looking to me as your North Star in the middle of a tournament, hoping for me to guide you through the rest of that round. But like on the flip side, a lot of it is just guys being dudes, hanging out, having a good time, and uh, you need some of that aspect too. And obviously a lot of the guys love Chase, and the improvement made it to me an obvious choice as to why he was selected pretty quickly, right? Like, I think it's a mix of both, but I do think the golf kind of has to come first, at least in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm out of pocket here, but just my thoughts on it.
I don't think you're far off base. I think what you're saying makes a ton of sense, right? It's a mix of both, and it's we'll table this discussion for the postseason because I don't want to give any disrespect to Chase or Carter as the captains for this year. But there are interesting questions,
Certainly.
things that the board of trustees for sure ponders all throughout the year, things we talk about. So like to pick your guys' brains about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tail us out here, but it's obvious,
Yeah.
Us five could sit and chat here for hours as we've done many hours before. Cully, Flop, if you guys want to come back on, we'd love to have you guys back. We maybe just have a literal no agenda bullshit episode where we just shoot the shit. And I feel like
Get back to the Bruce Russ segment.
Yeah, Bruce Russ episode.
Absolutely.
just a whole
That could
Brute
definitely
Force episode.
that could definitely happen because I have a lot of things in mind to talk about still.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
Write
we'll
'em
write
down.
them down next time.
yeah.
yeah, I'll write them down. I think I did pretty well with remembering what I wanted to say, but yeah, no, it's been an honor to be on. I think this is really cool what you guys are doing. So keep it up, and maybe I'll make my way on again.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys both. Appreciate you guys listening at home or in your commutes or at work, wherever you guys are listening.
Dang, you made it this
I'm
long.
pretty sure this is the longest pod we've had. So if you're still sticking around, Carter's gonna leak
44 club.
his Carter's gonna leak his big board here in a couple seconds. Carter, you want to take it away?
Well, let me hold on.
Yeah. So
I
first of
want to
all, I'm gonna
hold on.
pick
Hold
in the
on.